Imagine finally coming home after 3 months on the road, tired, sunburned, and running on gas station coffee. I had nothing but a U-Haul full of my life's possessions and a head full of memories. I'd camped in national parks, slept in my van under star-filled skies, and met strangers who felt more like family than most of my neighbors back home ever did. That road trip was supposed to be my grand adventure, a reset button for my life. Now I was pulling into my brand-new driveway, a place I'd worked years to afford. This wasn't just a house, it was my fresh start. The neighborhood looked quiet, clean, and peaceful. Birds chirped, sprinklers hissed, and kids rode their bikes down the street. It seemed perfect, but appearances can lie. I was halfway through, unloading my first box when I heard it. A sharp click. I spun around, confused, and saw her. Standing on the sidewalk was a woman in her 60s. Perfectly pressed polo shirt, oversized sunglasses reflecting the morning sun, and a clipboard clutched like a weapon. She had the kind of fake smile you'd see on a car salesman who knows he's ripping you off. "Excuse me," she snapped, striding toward me like she owned the pavement beneath her feet. I smiled, trying to be friendly. "Hey there, you. Can't park that moving truck here." I blinked. I just bought this house." She tilted her head, her smile tightening like a noose. "We'll see about that." Then she turned on her heel and marched back toward her porch, muttering into her phone. I thought she was calling a friend. 10 minutes later, I found out I was wrong. 2 police cruisers pulled up, sirens off but lights flashing. My stomach sank. I froze in the driveway, cardboard box still in my arms, as 2 officers got out. "Sir, can we talk to you for a second?" one asked cautiously. "Sure," I said, completely thrown off. The shorter officer asked, "Do you live here?" "Yes, I own this place," I said, pointing to the house behind me. "I literally just moved in today." They glanced at each other. "We got a call about a suspicious man moving into a vacant property." It took me a second to process. Then, I looked past them and saw her, the woman from earlier. She was standing on her porch, arms folded, lips curled into a smug smile. I pulled out my ID, mortgage paperwork, and even my keys to prove it was my home. One of the officers flipped, threw the papers, and nodded. "Ma'am," he called to her, "he owns the house." Karen, because of course her name was Karen, frowned. But she didn't apologize. She didn't even say a word. She just huffed, turned around, and stomped back inside. I laughed nervously, still stunned. "Is this normal around here?" I asked the cop. He sighed. "With her?" "Yeah, she calls on everyone." They left, and I went back to unloading. I told myself it was just a misunderstanding, maybe a bad first impression. But I was wrong. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was the start of a war. The next day, I woke up to a notice taped to my front door. I rubbed my eyes, thinking, maybe it was some sort of welcome letter. Nope. It was a $50 fine for leaving my trash can visible for more than 12 hours. I hadn't even unpacked yet. The following day, there was another one. A warning because my mailbox wasn't HOA approved. I didn't even know mailboxes needed approval. 2 days later, yet another letter. This one criticizing the color of my curtains. Apparently, they weren't neutral enough for the neighborhood aesthetic. I wanted to laugh. Curtains? Was she spying through my windows? It became clear quickly, Karen wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, and I was her new favorite victim. Every day was a new complaint. She'd walk her tiny dog in front of my yard, pausing to take photos of every little thing. She left nasty little notes, citing obscure HOA codes, acting like I was single-handedly destroying the neighborhood. One afternoon, I overheard her talking to another neighbor. "We can't just let anyone move in here," she whispered loudly, making sure I could hear. "It ruins the property values." That was it. I was done playing nice. What Karen didn't know was that I wasn't just some clueless new homeowner. While I'd been on that road trip, I'd also been working remotely and studying real estate law on the side. I wasn't a lawyer, but I knew my way around legal documents. So I sat down at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a stack of HOA bylaws. I read every single page, every boring clause, every line of fine print. And that's when I found it, a tiny paragraph buried halfway through. Curbside parking was public property. That meant no homeowner, not even Karen, could claim ownership of the street space in front of their house. I grinned, because here's the thing about Karen. She had one parking spot, just one, and now that spot was about to become mine. The next morning, I drove my old road trip van, a big beat-up Ford with solar panels and stickers from every state, straight into her precious spot. I got out, locked the doors, and went about my day. It didn't take long. Within 5 minutes, she stormed out in her bathrobe, arms flailing. "You can't park there!" she screeched. "Actually," I said calmly, holding up a printed copy of the HOA bylaws, "I can. It's public parking." Her face turned red. "This isn't over," she hissed, storming back into her house. Not 10 minutes later, I heard sirens again. The same 2 officers from last time showed up. They were trying not to laugh. One of them walked up to me, smiling. "She's at it again?" "Guess so," I said. They talked to Karen for a few minutes, then came back. "Sir, you're fine. She doesn't own the curb." I smiled and waved at her as she glared at me from her porch. But I wasn't stopping there. I'd had enough of her harassment. I started documenting everything, every note, every fine, every interaction. I filed harassment complaints with the HOA board. I started showing up at every HOA meeting, quoting their own rules back at them, word for word. Then I made a Facebook group for neighbors who were sick of Karen's nonsense. Turns out, I wasn't the only one. My inbox flooded with stories of her harassing other families, threatening fines, and even yelling at kids for riding bikes too close to her driveway. Within a month, we had a small army. At the next HOA election, we all showed up and voted her out. Karen's reign of terror ended overnight. Now she has to park a block away from her house because my van hasn't moved from her curbside spot in weeks. She avoids eye contact every time she walks past. A few days ago, she was carrying groceries and muttered, "You ruined this neighborhood." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "No, Karen, I just reminded everyone you don't own it. The best part? I haven't received a single fine since. So if your HOA thinks they run your life, maybe they should take a closer look at their own rulebook. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't yelling or fighting. It's using their own rules to beat them at their own game."